Next up, we have Piers Scott. So Piers is a lead UX designer and content strategist in Rothco. He has nearly a decade of experience designing and producing human-centered digital services and content. He's worked with startups and multinationals across Ireland, the UK, Europe, and the US to design great experiences for their customers. He started out as a content strategist in Arecibo before moving to Each&Other to become a UX designer. Earlier this year, he broke all of our hearts in Each&Other, and he left to move to Rothco, where he's he's working with talented researchers, designers, and analysts to help further build design thinking in the agency. And Piers also drinks tea from the biggest mug I've ever seen. Like, every cup of tea has this massive. So everyone put your hands together and welcome Piers and his talk, Lessons in Designing Design Departments.
I haven't even started speaking and already people are booing. This is a good start. Okay, let's give it a go. So I've been thinking about this question quite a lot recently over the past 2 or 3 years. A lot of the work that I've been doing in that time has been with young design departments that are growing or establishing themselves in very traditional old school organizations. This actually goes back to a lot of what Trevor was talking about and what Sheena was talking about. We need these design departments in these old school established organizations, because if we have these design skills in-house, that's when we start to solve these large social, cultural, economic, and political problems in our country. So what I want to do today is take you through a few things that I've learned in helping to design these design departments, and take you through a couple of the mistakes that I've helped them make in that process. And in reality, what I'm going to do is I'm going to take you 10 rules for this, but these can be broken down into 3 areas. So how you bring your colleagues in the wider organization into the work that you do, how you communicate the value that you can and you're going to provide, but also the rules that you're going to use and establish to grow and define what design is in the organization that you're working. So I want to start first with people, because these are going to be the greatest source of success and frustration that you're going to have as you try and actually do this. And what a lot of young design departments suffer from and are surprised by when they get started is that they end up butting heads with the established organization in the company. So the people in the company are already there, don't want to change, they don't want to do things differently. So what you have to do is find people in the organization who themselves are frustrated by how things are run and work with them. Solve their problems, because if you can solve their problems, you can then move on. Just because you have a design department doesn't mean you're design-led. You can get there, but you need to manage up. Educate your managers about what you do, how you do it. If you can do this, then you become a truly design-led country or company. First mistake. So unicorns don't exist. None of us are unicorns. We all have gaps in our skill sets. So don't try and solve every problem that comes to your desk. Pick the problems and pitch the problems towards your skill sets. And obviously, if you need something else, move it on. So communicating value, we all know this is something you've got to do, and we all know you've got to do it a lot. But you don't have time, if you're a young design department, to spend a huge amount of time actually just communicating constantly what you do. And the biggest source of frustration for this is, how do you get started? How do you show your value if nobody's going to let you access projects or give you access to projects that you want to work on? So look, be scrappy, do the research, do the design without being asked, present those findings to the organization, make a room for yourself that just doesn't exist currently. And you got to sell your successes. So this is one of the big mistakes that a lot of young design departments make. They have successes, they do stuff that actually has an impact, but they don't sell it. They don't talk about it enough, so it goes forgotten. The strategy, the insights, they go unseen and they go forgotten by the organization. So constantly be selling it. And it's not enough to do good work, you have to be seen to be doing good work. So look, I mean, we all know this is obvious. You bring your colleagues, your clients, your customers into the work that you do, especially your managers. Show them what you do, how you work, how the research process works. Because if you do this, then they'll open a door for you. Don't speak in design. The rest of the organization doesn't understand what empathy is. They barely understand what design is. So don't talk in those terms. Translate what you do into the language that everybody else in the organization themselves can understand. So principles, these aren't lofty academic goals. What these are a set of rules you're going to use to grow and define what UX and what design is in your organization. And a huge number of young design departments don't actually know what their principles are. And because they haven't defined their principles, they end up falling for everything. So the rest of the organization, doesn't understand what design is. It hasn't been clearly defined in the organization. So what they do is they define it for themselves. So the finance department will understand design as wireframing, or they'll understand design as the digital department. So be very clear about what you do. Also be very clear about what you're not going to do. You cannot solve every problem, and not all problems are worth solving. Some problems are not worth your time or effort. So don't try and do everything. Just do what you can and work on the projects that you think are valuable to you and actually have an impact on the organization. Yeah, plan for growth. The big mistake that a lot of young design departments make is they don't know where they're going to be in 2 years' time or 3 years' time. And because of this, they flounder and they stagnate. And then the employees flounder and stagnate, and then they end up leaving. So have a plan. Create a plan and stick to it. So when you look at these 10 rules and you look at these 3 areas, what are you actually doing when you're growing and defining a design department in a large organization? In reality, what you're doing is you're building trust. The first thing you got to do in your first 6 months, your first 12 months is build trust in the wider organization, in the work that you do. Because if the organization actually trusts you to take on these big projects, to take on these big budgets, that's when you start to have an impact on the organization and on society in general. And as I was saying, this is important. If we have design at every level of Irish society, we start to, as designers, have an impact on how our country is run and how our process works. So if you are in the process of doing this, the only thing I'll say is keep going, because we genuinely need your skills and expertise. Thank you very much.